Guangzhou, China is the fourth largest urban area in the entire world, as over 18 million people call it home. The city's signature theme park, Chimelong Paradise, can be found a 30 minutes drive just south of the city center. The theme park welcomed over 5.5 million people in 2023, making it the 21st most visited theme park in the entire world, beating out every theme park in the US not named Disney or Universal. They're currently home to 5 operating roller coasters, with one more on the way, and when it opens, they're likely still gonna have only 5 operating roller coasters. This is Dive Coaster, the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the region, standing 197 feet in height, reaching speeds of 70 miles per hour. It officially opened in 2008 and is rumored to be giving its final rides later this year. For a ride of this size, just 17 years of operation is kind of a short lifespan. At least, you would think. Here in China, things are a bit different, and in this review, I'll be discussing Dive Coaster's ride experience and addressing the rumors concerning the ride's closure, and most importantly, answering the question of why. But first, a little background knowledge. Dive Coaster was B&M's 5th dive coaster to ever open, after Oblivion at Alton Towers, Diving Machine G5 at Janfusen Fancy World, Sheikra at Busch Gardens Tampa, and Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. The layout is a near mirror image to Sheikra, but it differs slightly in element placement, and that does technically make this a custom layout. Riders are arranged in 3 rows of 10, that's 30 passengers per vehicle, the exact same as Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, but actually larger than Sheikra. That makes this one of the only dive coasters in the world that has this high of capacity. I had the opportunity of experiencing Dive Coaster for my first ever time in fall 2024, and during that visit, Dive Coaster was operating with 2 trains. And when it comes to Chinese theme parks, there's often a stereotype with slower operations. But at least over here at Dive Coaster, that was not the case. There were tons of operators on platform and they were sending trains out quick. That's impressive considering that this ride has 3 restraints to check. Your typical over-the-shoulder restraint, and then a seatbelt clip to buckle it in that is the same as Griffin, but Dive Coaster has an additional seatbelt that goes over your lap, like the type of restraint that would typically accompany a lap bar. It certainly seemed excessive, and to this day, I have never seen that on any other dive coaster, which does tell you it is unnecessary. These rides are capable of operating just fine with 2 restraints only, but nonetheless, they were still extremely efficient in sending these trains out. Dive Coaster is positioned on the south side of Chimelong Paradise near one of their main entrances. There are actually 2 into Chimelong Paradise. So if you come in from this side, Dive Coaster is the first thing you see. This is your front gate ride. And you can walk all around it. You can get close up to the splashdown, that vertical drop. It is a spectacle, and I think that's one of the things that has helped this become one of the most recognizable rides in all of China. The ride opened just 2 years after the park made its grand debut in 2006, and at the moment is the 2nd oldest coaster in the park, only behind 10 Inversion Coaster. But let me tell you, this ride still runs glass smooth. It absolutely brought me back to that old school dive coaster feeling. I grew up riding Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I still think that is one of the smoothest rides on the planet. This is right up there with it. I would go as far as saying this ride is smoother than Sheikra. And I'll give Sheikra a little bit of credit, it is 3 years older, but both rides operate in a 365 environment where that park is open every day and is constantly cycling. And with Chimelong Paradise being situated in South China, it gets extremely hot here. So I gotta commend the park on doing a great job maintaining it. But let's take a look at what the layout of Dive Coaster consists of. And for this, I gotta shout out Roller Coaster Dream for providing the on-ride POV. If you're looking for coverage of any theme park in China, this should be your go-to YouTube channel for extremely high-quality on-ride videos. I'll throw a link in the description for where you can go give them a watch. During our visit, no loose articles were allowed on the attraction, which is also why, unfortunately, we don't have any station footage to show you. But from your departure, you immediately begin with a left-handed turn. Again, this is nearly a mirror of Sheikra, so just keep that in mind as you're watching this. If you're familiar with what Busch Gardens Tampa did, I had a bit of deja vu riding this thing. It was like I was in a bizarro world. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't Tampa, Florida. But you'll take this nice steady climb up to the top. Interestingly enough, this ride is 3 feet shorter than Sheikra and 8 feet shorter than Griffin. But with the difference that minute, you would never know. As you crest over, you'll take a left-handed turn and then line up with your chain that will lock onto the ride vehicle and slowly tilt you to hang you over that 90-degree drop. During my single ride that I got on Dive Coaster, I got to experience this in the front row, which is of course one of the best places to experience a dive coaster, and I chose to sit on the far end purely because Sheikra operates with 8 across trains. I was like, all right, let's see how this layout is with 10 across. And those extra seats help. It's very cool sitting out there on the end. But you'll get some nice floater air as that chain releases and you plummet down towards the ground at 70 miles per hour. And this is our first big difference with dive coasters. You duck under a section of track that you experience at the end directly following the splashdown. The helix is in a completely different location. So this is nearly a head chopper, and then you're thrown up into the ride's first and only inversion in Immelman. Very graceful, nice gradual transition. And over on Sheikra, this is where you would experience this crazy hand chopper on the left-hand side. You get super close to the ride's mid-course brake run. But over here on Dive Coaster, the second drop is on the left-hand side, so you don't cross under it. Instead, you cross under the ride's brake run. That creates a new near miss that is at the very bottom of this drop. You'll slide under it, banking to the left, and then enter your mid-course brake run. You are halfway through the ride. You can catch your breath, stare off at the Guangzhou skyline, and then take another steep drop, this time into a tunnel. This is not quite as big of a tunnel as over on Sheikra, and like Sheikra, an exact angle of descent has not been released for the second drop, but it does appear to be near vertical. And I love sitting off over on the end seats here because you just don't think that train is going to be able to fit through this tunnel. It is just enough clearance, and you emerge out into the daylight, take a right-handed bank turn that goes out by the front entrance that you pass through when you walk in. Then you hit that nice graceful splashdown, shooting up water behind you, start to rise up into an airtime hill, but it kind of levels out, so it's not a true parabolic hill, and that's when you duck over the bottom of the first drop underneath the Immelman and pass real low up against the ground in a left-handed helix that takes you into the brake run. I actually liked this helix a lot more than Sheikra's. I feel like you had more speed going through it. When I did it midday with a full train, you were flying, kept a great pace, and overall, it left me with a very positive impression of this attraction. Even though the extra restraint is a little weird, if I had to rank them, I would put Dive Coaster over Sheikra. I think I still like Griffin more than either of them, but for a design that came out 3 years following Sheikra, I think it was an improvement. So then why on earth would this park rip out their signature attraction? Could it be for a big new roller coaster? Well, no. They just opened up a new Jinma launch coaster and have a new shuttle coaster on the way. Could it be increased maintenance costs? Not exactly. B&Ms are usually pretty reliable, and this park brings in a lot of people. They can afford it. So what's going on? Well, the answer is a bit of a two-parter. China has rules and laws for theme parks and roller coasters that don't exist in other countries. Rides have an expiration date. First, when the trains are Best Buy, and then when the track is Best Buy. The trains will always expire first, meaning if you want to keep that attraction around a bit longer, you have to invest in brand new trains. The problem is, train replacement usually has to occur around the 15-year mark, meaning only 15 years after being open, a park will have to make a decision of if they want to continue to invest to keep the ride around. They might get new trains after 15 years of operation and then have to either replace the track at 20 or just close the ride completely. And maybe the craziest part is, this is all public knowledge. In the station, for just about every roller coaster in China, you can see a plaque that will list those dates. Because of that loose article system with Dive Coaster, I was not able to take a picture of the one in the station. However, here you can see one for another B&M coaster in the region, Parrot Coaster at Chimelong Ocean Kingdom. Anyone can see this as you're just waiting to board. So we apply that logic to Dive Coaster, that would be 2028. So it would be closing a few years before then. However, there is more to the story. Chimelong Paradise sits on very valuable land. When I was in the park, I noticed how there were huge skyscrapers. They were just apartment buildings directly next to the park. And in an urban area home to over 18 million people, you gotta find room for everyone. And apparently the government has been eyeing the land that Chimelong Paradise sits on for quite a while, but they don't want to close the park. They just want some of their land. And with the closure of Dive Coaster, they can sell the land to the Chinese government to build new apartment buildings. So unfortunately, Dive Coaster would not be replaced by another big attraction. The footprint of the park would be shrinking. This would also mean they would have to get a new entrance for the south side. Quite an unfortunate end to an iconic attraction, and because of these Chinese rules, don't expect this attraction to get relocated either. Not to mention, just because of its sheer size, I don't think too many parks would be able to afford a ride like this anyways, even if it did go outside of the country. So if you've ever wanted to experience this attraction, go sooner rather than later. The current rumors are pointing to a closure after Halloween, as that's one of their peak times of year. The good news is, if you can't make it around to Chimelong Paradise, should you travel up north to Shanghai, there is a Sheikra layout over at the Happy Valley Park there. And that opened in 2009, so in theory we should have a couple more years for that ride. But as for Dive Coaster, I'm thrilled that I had the opportunity to experience it, especially since I wasn't even originally supposed to visit this park on my Asia trip. It ended up being a very last-minute addition, but considering how much they've changed just since my last visit, they've opened up a whole new launch coaster, and with this ride on the way out, if I ever make it back there, the park will feel very different. But to end up this review, for Dive Coaster's final score, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. I found it to be a very enjoyable experience, though dive coasters have never been my favorite coaster model. I think in B&M's larger catalog of attractions, this is one of their better ones. It may be a predictable ride, but it's certainly eye-catching for the public, something that most locals have probably never experienced before, and I can see why it's been so successful for this park. I just hope they're able to somehow make up for its loss sometime in the future. But let me know down in the comments below if you've had the opportunity of experiencing Dive Coaster at Chimelong Paradise, or if you've experienced Sheikra. What do you think of it? What do you think of this interesting Chinese law with ride expiration dates? And if you're new to Coaster Studios, please go check out the Coaster Reviews playlist. I've reviewed rides from all over the world, and they're all organized in alphabetical order. Go see if your favorite is on there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.